Your question, the member from Kitchener-Conestoga.
Yes, well, thank you, Speaker. I want to first off say it's been a privilege and honour, of course, to represent my constituents of Kitchener-Conestoga and, of course, to work with all of you for the last 6.5 years. Speaker, my question is to the Premier, of course, on a topic that I've raised many times in this House, fair and open tendering for construction projects. In the region of Waterloo, nearly 84% of construction firms and the skilled tradespeople they employ have been prevented from working on local infrastructure projects because of a loophole in Ontario Labour Relations Act. Speaker, this isn't fair for taxpayers or local construction workers who should have the right to work on publicly funded infrastructure in the community where they live, work and pay taxes. Premier, in the spirit of fairness, will you commit today to close this legislative loophole?
Thank you, Premier.
Minister of Labour.
Minister of Labour.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the member for that question, Speaker. The province of Ontario, as we know, has a very organized system and an organized system that works when it comes to labour relations in the province of Ontario, Speaker. And what the member refers to is provisions that typically prohibit employers in the province, throughout the province of Ontario, from contracting out work that's subject to their collective agreement to non-union contractors. It's been around, Speaker, for a long time. In fact, I believe it was brought in by the Conservative Party, if the member remembers. Ontario's Labour Relations Act that we have in place right now, it doesn't require such provisions. It doesn't prohibit such provisions either. Each time that a case comes forward, Speaker, the Labour Relations Board decides specifically on the merits of that case. Speaker, if a municipality, any organization feels it's wrongly bound, there is a way to apply for exclusion from this, Speaker.
Supplementary.
Yes, thank you, Speaker, and back to the Premier. Premier, I know that members of your government have had the opportunity to tour St. Mary's Hospital in Kitchener, which is also home to our leading regional cardiac care program. In fact, St. Mary's was one of 3 cardiac centres in Canada that recently performed better than the national average on all 6 cardiac quality indicators. Over the last few years, there have been a significant increase in the number of cardiac procedures performed at St. Mary's, which of course has put stress on the local hospital. As you know, the hospital has long waited for the promised EP lab and now requires additional investment to meet our community's healthcare needs. Will the Premier commit today to providing the needed investment to expand the world-class quality care cardiac program at St. Mary's Hospital in Kitchener?
Speaker, the Minister of Health.
Minister of Health.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to say to the member opposite, I know he's recently had some corneal transplant surgery, and I wish you very well with your recovery and in the future. And I want to ensure the member that our government has made it clear that we have approved this particular project. We know the member has been an advocate for this particular project, as has our member from Kitchener Centre. And back in 2016, actually, we put this project as part of our budget, and it was approved at that particular time. I can understand why the member opposite is anxious about this project, because should his leader potentially become the Premier, we know that there are going to have to be cuts, and I would expect that this one might very well be one of those cuts that the leader of the official opposition might put in place. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.